Good morning, grade 4 students. How are you? In this video, we're not going to learn any new skill. We're going to do this worksheet. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to read this lesson for you, and so you can solve the related questions. The title of the lesson is Trouble with Poetry. Let's find out what is this lesson about. In shock, I listened as Mrs. True described our newest writing assignment. Did she actually think I could write a poem? My mind was spinning as fast as a top. I shut my eyes and listened to the rest of her directions. So, from the beginning, we can tell that the characters are Mrs. True, who's the teacher, and the narrator of this text or if this of this story. Here, you can see we have a simile. You should be able to spot a simile from the first time as you read the lesson. Poems can be written about anything, Mrs. True was saying. You could write about things you see every day. Poets sometimes write about things they have done or feelings they have. I looked at my friend Nate and tried not to groan. Now pay attention to this sentence. What does the narrator mean when he says that I looked at my friend Nate and tried not to groan? What does this mean? Is he happy? Does he feel confident? What was Nate doing when he looked at him? What could I write about? So all these questions, these are in the mind, inside the mind of the narrator. I couldn't write about my messy room or about my little sister, the pest, and I was not writing about my feelings. Then I realized Mrs. True was still talking. So the narrator here, the speaker, he lost concentration. He gazed a bit. The teacher was talking and he was in shock. They told us in the beginning that he was in shock about the new assignment, the new writing assignment. What do you think he's feeling? He's feeling that he doesn't have the skills. He doesn't know what to write about, so he's a little bit confused. Let's continue reading. Take out your journals. We will spend the next 20 minutes brainstorming. This is one of the vocab words that we covered before. Brainstorming ideas. To brainstorm is to think and come up with new ideas. And then we will write rough drafts. Rough. This is how we write the word rough. She said, remember to use some of the poetry traits that we have studied. What are these poetry traits? Let's find out. Your poem should rhyme and have stanzas. Remember, a poem is written in stanzas and not paragraphs, in lines and stanzas. You should also use a few similes or metaphors. What is the difference between a simile and metaphor? Both are used to compare between two things. In simile, we have words like or as. In metaphor is like it's a direct comparison. For example, in simile, we can say a spin like a top. Okay, or here, my mind spins like a top. Okay, uh, and this one is a simile. In metaphor, I say, for example, my mind is a top. It's like a direct. I'm telling that my mind is a top. So this one, the first one is simile. The second one is metaphor. I'm comparing my mind to a top. In the first one, I'm using like. In the second one, it's directly compared. Great, I whispered under my breath. I dug my journal out of my backpack, slapped it down, and opened it up. Mrs. True looked at me when she heard the slap. She walked over to my desk and asked, is everything all right, Ilan? So Ilan is our narrator here. The author is the same as the narrator. I don't think I can write a poem, Mrs. True. I replied, means I answered. I don't know where to begin. Think of things that make you happy, said Mrs. True. It might be easier to write about something that makes you smile. As she walked away, I thought of the things that made me happy. Like a speeding train. Here's another simile. My dog Trouble, so Trouble here is the dog, crashed into my thoughts. This is a really nice picture that you can imagine. Like a speeding train, my dog Trouble crashed into my thoughts. She got her name, so Trouble is a female dog. She got her name because she always gets into trouble. I had many stories about her. Suddenly, my hand was a jet. This is a metaphor. My hand is a jet flying across my paper. Just try to imagine what does he mean by my hand was a jet? Does it mean that his hand is actually a plane or some kind of planes? I quickly filled my page with great ideas. I turned to a clean page and started my rough draft. Let's see the poem Ilan wrote. Trouble's the name of my dog. Trouble is here. Not doesn't mean this is a possessive. This is an abbreviation for trouble is. Trouble is the name of my dog. She hops and jumps like a frog. Dog, frog. I have rhyming words. She tears up our shoes. On sofas she chews. Shoes, shoes. I wish she'd sit still like a log. Dog, frog, log. So this is made of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. First, number one, number two, and the last one rhymes. So what kind of poems is this one? Who try to remember? So what kind of poems is made of 5 lines and it's silly or funny? If you remember, from grade 3, this is called limerick. A limerick kind of poem. In grade 4, you studied about haiku and you made a haiku. In grade 3, there was a genre of poetry called limerick. So a limerick is made of 5 lines. It's usually silly or funny. Number 1, 2, and the last line, number 5, rhymes, and number 3 and line number 4 rhymes. She jumped through the back door screen and licked my soup bowl clean. She barks at all cars. I'd send her to Mars for a break from this wild machine. So this is really nice. First, they told us the name of the dog, which is Trouble, and how the way she acts, jumps like a frog. What does it do? It tears up shoes and choose the sofas. And in the second stanza, they are telling us about the loud sound that she barks at everything, and the Ilan told us that she looks like a wild machine. This is a metaphor. It means here trouble is a wild machine, or trouble behaves like a wild machine. But trouble is loyal and true. This is why this dog is so important, because this dog is loyal. She sticks to my side just like glue. I love every part, her big eyes and big heart. She cheers me when I'm so blue. I think this is a really lovely limerick from Ilan. I pushed my chair back from my desk and grinned at my paper. He smiled. Writing poetry wasn't going to be so bad because I had such a great subject. I was sure that trouble would give me lots of things to write about for a long time to come. Now we have to answer these questions. Who is telling the story? Is it Ilan or Nate or Trouble or Mrs. True? Read the following sentences from the passage. My mind was spinning as fast as a top. I shut my eyes and listened to the rest of her directions. Why the author comparing Ilan's mind to a top? Why do you think it's that? Ilan's mind like a top. Read the sentence. Like a speeding train, my dog Trouble crashed into my thoughts. What does the simile like a speeding train mean in this sentence? Does it mean that the dog is angry, quick, slow, or weak? Now, this is about the point of view in this passage. It helps the reader better understand what Nate's thoughts. Nate is the friend. Ilan's thoughts. Ilan is the one struggling with poetry. Trouble's thought. Trouble is the dog. Mrs. True's thoughts. True is the teacher. So after we read the lesson, what do you think we understand more? What kind of thoughts, these thoughts, the questions that we read belong to who? Let's read the sentence. We will spend the next 20 minutes brainstorming ideas. Then we will write rough drafts. What does brainstorming mean? Copy what others are doing, do as you're told, think of ideas, or follow a plan. Number 6, read the following lines from the passage. Trouble's the name of my dog. She hops and jumps like a frog. Why is the author comparing trouble to a frog? Is it because the trouble is actually a frog? Is it because trouble eats insects? Does trouble make frog sounds? Or trouble moves around a lot? Now, here I want you to pay attention. What evidence from the text shows Ilan's feelings about poetry? You have to think of a sentence. Is it then I realized Mrs. True was still talking? Does this sentence tell us about Ilan's feelings? How does he feel about poetry? I looked at my friend Nate and tried not to groan. I turned to a clean page and started my rough draft. As she walked away, I thought of the things that made me happy. So, from the beginning of the text, how was Ilan feelings? How were Ilan's feelings about poetry? Did he like poetry in the beginning? How did he feel about it? Is it easy? Is it hard? Which of these sentences is a text evidence about his feelings? In the passage where if the passage were written from Mrs. True points of view, if the teacher was the one writing this text, what would we know? The reader would know that Trouble is a cute dog, that Ilan glances at Nate, what she thinks about poetry, what Nate writes a poem about. If Mrs. True was telling us this story, what would we know as readers? Would she tell us about Trouble? Would we know that Ilan glances at Nate? Or would she be describing more about poetry and we will learn more about poetry? And what about the last one? Would we know about what Nate writes? What was Nate's poem about? Why does Ilan love Trouble? This one is easy. Is it because the Trouble jumps through screens? Trouble has a big heart. Trouble is a faithful dog. Trouble chews on sofas. Read the following sentences from the passage. I wish she'd sit still like a log. What does the simile sit like a log mean in this sentence? Does it mean be quiet, be nervous, stop moving, or be rough like wood? Now, these answers are quite close to each other, so you have to be careful. Our lesson last time was about possessive. Now, this is like things to remember, rules to remember. We add apostrophe s to form possessive of a singular noun. For example, the coat belonging to the girl. This is the girl's coat. Add s apostrophe S apostrophe to form the possessive of a plural noun ending in S. For example, the fur of the dogs becomes the dog's fur. Dogs is a plural, apostrophe. Add apostrophe S to form the possessive of a plural noun not ending in S. The boats belonging to the men. This is irregular plural, becomes the men's boat. Now, what are you supposed to do? In part A, you have to follow the example. The word bird in plural is birds, singular possessive, apostrophe S. Plural possessive, S apostrophe. So this is a nice exercise for you to review the plural, including regular and irregular, and then what's the difference between a plural nouns and possessive. Rewrite each sentence using a possessive noun. The names of the dogs becomes what? The area of the for the workman, the bed for the puppy, the glasses belonging to my grandma, the sounds of the instruments. So this worksheet is your homework. You have to do this worksheet and be ready during our Zoom.